Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 10 of Run It Back. I'm Menelik Fernandez, your host. This week, we are discussing a rematch between Miami of Ohio and the University of Buffalo. We've got a couple people in the waiting room here. Just let some people in. Good morning, Brant. Good morning, David. It's me in a room just basically talking to myself this morning, so thank you for joining me. So I'm just doing the intro right now. And I mean, as I was saying, this is episode number 10. I'm Menelik Fernandez, the host. Big thanks to Rising Coaches for their continued support of this creative venture that I walked down the road on. Just for those of you who are watching the replay later on YouTube or on Rising Coaches. Run It Back is now actually on both the podcast app and Spotify, so it's there for your streaming pleasures at later dates. This particular one between Miami of Ohio and the University of Buffalo, we're taking on the perspective of the University of Buffalo. I had the good fortune of getting down to UB a bunch of times this past year, watch a lot of practices, meet a lot of the staff and players, so I felt a little bit of a connection with this one, which was always good to take on that perspective. Unfortunately, Coach Quarles had a scheduling conflict and had to cancel, so I'm going to tackle this one all by myself. What stood out box score wise to me in this particular game, it's interesting because if you didn't show me a box scores final score and just showed me the box score overall, I would find it hard to decipher who won in this game. It was pretty even overall, I'd say. Both teams shot 40% from the three-point line. Both teams shot similar field goal percentages. I mean, obviously, we're within 6 points overall. And free throw wise, same number, basically, and rebounds, both teams had 35. Nothing really stands out other than Nike Saban scoring his career high of 31 points. And I mean, beyond that, I've been in this exact same position as a coach before. When I coached in high school, we played a team. I coached at a school called Lawrence Park. We played a team called Northern Collegiate where we beat them twice in the regular season and ended up losing to them in the playoffs in the first round, similar to what happens in this scenario. So as always, I typically start with a poll. So I'll throw you guys a poll given from what you guys see. Can Buffalo beat Miami of Ohio in a rematch? And it looks like it's a clean wash, 100% say yes. So taking on Buffalo's perspective, anybody in here want to give me a comment? What happened in your perspective? How do you feel that Miami of Ohio got them, and what could Buffalo have done different or better?
Well, I mean, obviously they could have done a little bit better job on Nike, but for me, like everything was pretty much the exact same except Miami, Ohio, um, made a few more baskets. I just sometimes that's how it shakes. They got more points in that regard from their combination of free throws and they didn't make as many threes, but I thought they got a little bit better looks, especially at the basket.
Yeah, I'd agree. Obviously, we've got a special guest here. It's my daughter, London. Say hello, everybody. um, this is one of those ones that, as a coach, like I don't know if I would want to watch this right away after the game, or if I'd want to throw this tape away for a few days because it's like it's one of those ones where it's like you don't really do a bunch of things wrong, and you don't get the W at the end of the game. So what are the areas of concern that you would tackle? I have some film for some defensive clips that I want to get to, but like I said, when you're looking at the box score, nothing really stands out. Just like Brant's saying, they got a couple more buckets at the end of the day. And Buffalo played a lot of varied coverages on the guards, but I think ultimately it came down to guard play of Miami of Ohio being better. I would have liked to have seen Buffalo get out into transition quite a bit more because there were a few opportunities where they got some wide open threes or all the way to the bucket where they were just able to bust out because they looked faster in transition while Miami of Ohio was just trying to match up. But I mean, is that something that's controllable as a coach? Something that you can really ultimately gear towards? I don't think so. So, again, like I'm saying, this is a tough one. Uh, Dave, did you have anything? Did you see anything that was of note to you?
I didn't. I actually I didn't even see the games. I just kind of looked at their schedules. So seeing that Buffalo won the first two times, and then seeing this third one and how they lost, it was a close one. So I'm guessing, Miami, Ohio must have tried to do one scheme thing much differently that they potentially did for the first two rounds to try to just change it up on them to try to get, Buffalo potentially maybe out of their comfort zone offensively or even just defensively.
In Tommy Strine's think tank last week on Wednesday, Tommy made the comment that, like, when you watch a football game and teams have played a couple times previously during the season,
So now we're gonna
when,
do
when you watch the
shoulder sketch one more
second
time.
or third time type deal where they play again, you can always tell who won the first couple of games because they don't really change anything up. They just sort of show up and they're doing the same thing again, whereas the team that's lost the other times are trying something new. I want to take a look at some actions. I'll run this back for you just so you guys can get an idea of what I was looking at, but I'm just wondering how you guys would guard some of these actions because some of them, I encounter some of these and they frustrate me a little bit. So this first one, let me know if we're not good size-wise, but I think we should be okay. So for those of you who are listening, I would call this horns double OA. And all it is just, I'll run it back a few times for the guys in here that are watching, is an entry to one of the two horns. In this case, it's the right elbow. And then the principal ball handler, the point guy, sets a wide pin down. So it's a double away. Your shooter's coming from the far left corner. And then they go into a handoff action. Buffalo actually tries to go under the handoff action. And then that ends up with Nike pulling a three. And in this particular case, he doesn't hit it. But how would you guys guard this? And what changes would you make if that player starts getting hot, if there are any? Can you please over here? One more. Thank you.
We would do one of two things, man, like depending on what we thought for personnel. If we just had a guy that was killing us, we would switch it where
Right.
we would tag off that guy in the corner and not even mess with chasing him over the top. If he curls to the basket, that guy takes it, and then you got the guy coming. But in the core of our defense, which is what we would want to do, actually, if you run it back a little bit, Buffalo does it the exact same thing we would do. We would shoot the gap on this first screen in the stagger, and I would want our defender to get a little bit better contact and blow up the second one, make contact right as soon as he goes through this gap here with the cutter so that he can't even get to the handoff.
So that like 15, who's setting the second of the stagger, the higher screen, should not even really be able to make contact with this guy. He should be able to get up there over top and totally deny that handoff type deal.
Yeah. And 11 would be curl help or whatever. And I don't even know if you need much curl help because it's so tight with the ball where it is and the guy at the elbow.
It's interesting because I would have liked to have heard if this particular action made it into their scout or not, because so where I play, the conference I play in, coaches love horn sets. And this, I would think, is probably one of the more common ones that you would see. This and the horns traffic or horns rub screen, whatever you want to call it. But I see this action a lot, and I would probably top lock initially and blow it up at the top as well. Does anybody have anything different?
I think the only difference I would say if he's a really good shooter, like you guys said, blow him up, I would say at least hard that screen super hard. So right when 22 now gets his hand off the 5-man, if he can hedge that thing super hard and get that guard and get the ball out of his hand, that's what I would really do. And you're looking at sinking the 4-man, the MIG, we call him the MIG, I do, the
Right.
most important guy
Fourth guy,
underneath.
yeah.
And so if he knew that's happening, just have 4 sit right the cylinder, especially if we hedge that thing hard. So then 22 needs a roll. So the guard looks at him, there's potentially a charge opportunity right there.
Interesting take.
I guess, yeah. You wonder if they messed that up, like if they were supposed to hedge that because their guard was looking to go under anyway.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
When I was looking at it, I was like, what happened there? So next one, we got a couple in the open side or the naked side, pick and roll. So that's when you have 3 guys on the other side of the floor and you're just playing 2-man game on one side. So this is the first one that I was looking at, and I don't love defending the open side pick and roll. They actually get the ball to the other side here and then have some great ball movement, which ends up in a wide open 3. So I'll run this back one time and then I'll try to describe it for anybody who's listening. But basically we've got a wing entry and then they're going to 3 on the opposite side. And we get into open ball screen between number 22 is, let me find you. I'm sorry here, buddy. Elijah McNamara, and then number 4 is Isaiah Coleman-Lands, who was kind of killing Buffalo in this game. But once they get into this open, he's attacking middle. When he attacks middle, I don't really see Buffalo tagging on this at all. So their big is showing and trying to plug up the paint. And then there's also the high tag, but there's nobody, the whole man's not going towards the roll really. They're just trying to recover. They get second side, and because of the high tag and because of probably messing it up, they end up with a very long closeout. He doesn't put it on the floor, punches the ball, and then they get second side for the wide open 3 here. How would you guys guard this action if you would guard it any differently?
I think they definitely messed this one up, right? 4 has no clue where his guy is. I mean,
none at all. Like, I don't know who he's guarding right now. He's covering the nail. His guy's exiting on the other side.
And I personally this is why we hard hedge, because I think on these naked ball screens, if the ball handler can get to the other side of the floor easy, it puts you in a tough rotation. But like perfect world, you do whatever hedge you want. You tag with the low guy a little bit and you rotate and stunt from there.
So it's interesting that you say this is why we hard hedge. So like in Canada, we call it shocking, which I hate the term, but on the high hard hedge, we'll see on one of these other open ball screens, sort of what happens if you can't do it well, I suppose. And I would be curious to see if it would change your game plan at all. But I think ultimately on this clip, this is just one player being totally lost that forces them into crazy rotation and then good ball movement by Miami of Ohio. This would be one of those clips that would definitely make it into the scout for the rematch, that I'd be like, hey, we have to clean this up. And I'd probably put somebody on a call out in that film session and just be like, hey, what were you thinking here? What happened type deal. Next one, still on the open side. And they get quite a bit deeper on this, but you can see that there's, again, to Isaiah Coleman-Lands, and then they're going open side. There's a bit of a hard hedge there. And then the clip gets quite a bit deeper here. There's a middleman through, and then they just end up ball screen on the other side. No hard hedge on this side. And because they are unable to gain any sort of advantage, they get a block out of it by Javon Graves. So would you guys play this any differently? Do you think in this scenario, the hard hedge really helped being able to have everybody recover? What are your thoughts on it?
It just gives that guard, or it gives everybody, on the hard hedge, if you run it back, he pauses for just, even if it's just a half second where he can't turn the corner free like he could in the first clip. Like, boom, he takes a dribble towards half court now instead of straight downhill.
Exactly right.
Here, boom. Now, that's enough right there for your entire defense to eliminate all that extra closeout action. You'd like to see the guard maybe fight through just a little bit better. I don't know. It looks like they're planning on going under. I mean,
it looks like it to me as well. I find it interesting. So again, those of you that have spent some time on Run It Back know that, like, I talk about Carleton a lot, but I could just really see Coach Dave Smart losing his mind on this for how much contact this screen is able to make.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, don't get caught on screens. And like, I've kind of adopted that philosophy into my, like, I can't tell you how many times I've watched guys just literally die on screens. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, where's the effort? But
For me, like I love the hard hedge against Miami, Ohio, especially because they're bigs. You know, I guess Delonte Brown makes more than whoever 22 is, but I think 22 only made 2 threes the whole season. So I'm hard hedging on him every time. Like, I'm not worried about the pop at all.
so on this second one in the same play, how do you feel about the line that 34 is at? It doesn't look like they try to drive him up the floor at all. So, like, he's, again, just attacking the middle. They get a lot of east-west out of it. And the ball handler's defender doesn't get caught on anything, but they don't drive the ball handler up the floor. He doesn't turn the corner. Are you okay with this going towards a strong hand, or should he have been higher, harder type deal?
I'm fine with where he's at if he gets in a stance and extends his hand at least a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, he can be right there and cover ground and make him go somewhere without standing straight up and down. I'm sure that he wanted to stay connected to Bowman because he shoots like 40% from 3, but it just looks like he's just standing up instead of, like, if he was down low, extended, then you basically get your hard hedge anyway because he's so long.
Yeah. I'm fine with, this guy shooting this shot all the time. I mean, yeah, they get a great contest. They end up getting the block and the transition out of it or whatever, but I'm just fine with this shot all the time now, given the ability of these guys to get to the cup, given the ability of these guys to be able to hit the 3, these guards. I would have been happy with that all the time. So the last question that I have, and we'll go one more open side here, is, do you find that the hard hedge then leads to that 15 to 18 foot jump shot at a sufficient rate? Or do you find that you end up, if you're a team that does it, like you said you are, if you're a team that does it overall, do you give up more threes? Do you give up more second side open looks like in the first clip? Like, do you ultimately get what you want consistently by sticking with the coverage?
I mean, I think so, which is why I think we stick with it. To me, I don't think that the 15 to 18 foot pull up is ever going to be sufficient enough to beat you if it's just exclusively what you're giving up. But I mean, I think what you do give yourself, you're susceptible to, if you hard hedge it, is if you face a guard and a big that are really good at hitting the big in the pocket pass, and that big can make a play off of one bounce or whatever on the short roll, is where we struggle the most. But I'm not worried about any of the extra rotations just because we rep them so much. I'm definitely not worried about the 15 to 18 foot pull up beating us if that's the look they're consistently getting.
Right. So, David, this clip's going to go to your MIG a little bit, your most important guy. So we've got, again, an open side. We do have the hard hedge. Does drive it up, but there's no low tag, no hole guy, just a wide open dunk. And the interesting thing to me is that when I watch this game overall, I kind of feel like this was their philosophy, and they wanted to defend with 2. They didn't want to rotate, which, I mean, I've heard people express their desire to want to be able to, I know, like the Raptors 905 and certain other like pro or higher level teams definitely only want to guard it with 2. What do you guys think about at the college level being able to guard it with 2 while still hard hedging? I mean, it's kind of a tricky thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I just thought, I know, like, in a normal scenario, the tag would be on the off the low guy right here, but I don't know why they wouldn't tag off number 5 if he's going to stand in the paint. He's made 2 threes in his college career. Like, he's my tag guy no matter where the ball screen is.
No matter what, you're
No
coming from 45 other side of the floor. You don't care.
I don't care if I'm an NAI coach or a high major coach. If there's a dude on the floor that can't play, I'm not guarding him. I'm going to tag off of him in every single action that I can where he's in the spot that we can tag off of. And then I'm going to stay with your shooters. So I think, like, that may have been what was supposed to happen because they obviously don't want to leave the good shooter in the corner. And maybe they were counting on that big to tag here on the roll, which is an easy tag because he's standing in the paint.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just that's a free 2 points in my opinion. It I got a little bit of an eye twitch when I was looking at it. So there's a few more here that definitely gave me a bit of an eye twitch. And like to Miami of Ohio's credit, they have really good guards in my opinion. They're undersized. Like Nike has got some decent size on him. He's 6'4", but like there are other guys, Isaiah's 6 feet, and then Makai, Larry gets on the floor. He's only about 5'8". Even though he was an all-MAC freshman, still they're undersized, but they have speed, and that's what's put them at the Division I level. So let's look a little bit at just not forcing coverages and the straight blow-bys that have happened. So again, eye twitch as I'm saying for the people who are listening and not watching at a later time. Just a wing pass to Nike, and it looks like they're about to come into the open side screen and roll, or possibly even 77, a double drag type deal. And it just looks like Buffalo just totally forgets to force the coverage, and Nike. Sorry, as I'm letting people in, I can't control this. Nike just rips and goes baseline. There's no help. There's no tag. There's no most important guy, as we would say, and no force of coverage. I'm getting an eye twitch as a coach. What are you saying? Are you saying anything at all to your guys, or are you just, hey man, you got blown by. You need to fix that. At the end of the day, right? Like, what about the rotation standpoint? Let's go from there. Like, does it look like to you guys that Buffalo is not trying to rotate? Or are they just –
the rotation's tough because it would be 10, right? Or should be probably because he's going to be the low guy. But at the time of the drive, the dude gets smoked off one bounce, which for us is like the one thing you can't do in the help defense. But, like, in a perfect world, 10 doesn't chase that guy out there. But he gets beat from a really bad spot, kind of super high wing where it's just a tough spot to help from, especially when you get blown by on one bounce.
I just want to point out for any of my guys that end up watching this at a later time, a lot of my guys like to watch, run it back, and criticize me on my hosting ability. I'd like to just point out right here how Nike does not go away from contact. He cuts the angle. He keeps the guy on his back and is able to finish through the challenge, through the contest, gets it high on the glass. And he's an athletic guy, but it's all about the angle there. I mean, obviously he destroyed the guy off of the one bounce and got the angle, but I just want to point that out to my guys. Here's one more similar type thing. So this one's a bit of a longer clip. Give me a second here, but basically just rip and go right to the cup. And I'll run that back one more time, and I'll try and describe it for anybody who's listening. We're just in a mid-ball screen, and we play with the ball. We're going east and west a little bit. We flip the side, and we're into another ball screen, and it's just a reject, basically. There's no ball side help coming, and all the way through. So when we get to this second ball screen, we're just playing. We're in concepts. I don't think we're scripted anymore. It looks like there's no play anymore. It's just, hey, let's go. And it's number 4, which is Coleman lands again. And again, same idea. They're trying to get this forced middle, and the ball defender just steps too high and gets blown by. So I have a couple questions again. Does it look like Buffalo is not tagging from the low spot, or do you think that the exchange on the help side just screwed up their coverage there?
Dude gets rejected. But I mean, that's where it all comes down to. He shouldn't have got rejected. If they think I don't know if he's thinking they're in ice or whatever, but that's where the problem is.
Yeah, it definitely is. But on the on the other side, Matt, are you coming here, or are you just going to blame the guy who's the ball defender and say, fix that?
I would blame the ball defender, but kind of like in your last clip was actually really interesting. I literally just got in, but in the last clip, I would always say that, like, so something I've talked to a couple of my previous bosses about, that if there's an action, like, so basically if the bottom guy needs to be on alert and your MIG needs to be on alert, basically there's a chance of somebody getting blown by or there's going to be action at the rim what's the point of switching who the low guy is? Like, on a simple interchange, just keep that guy, whoever's in there, because even if you are in there, there's a skip, but they're probably Xing out anyway, probably. And even if they're not, I mean, then you're really good in your rotations or whatever, who you're guarding. But I was like, if there's any kind of question, just keep the bottom guy in there. And the other guy, the guy that's got his head turned to the play, he's got 2 right now.
Right.
So, and then you can communicate, hey, I'm out, you're in, however you communicate that. But I just never understood that, like, we would get beat so many times on just some stupid stuff like an interchange where our guy is leaving the hole, and when somebody leaves the hole and somebody's not coming into the hole, like, it's just a dumb mistake that happens a ton.
Yeah.
So if you're the guy who has 2, and I'm just going to go through this because you said, what's the point of switching the first time? But I believe you meant interchanging, which you then said afterwards or whatever. But, like, for me, I would do what I think you're suggesting all the time. I would just leave this guy in the hole, and I would let these 2 just switch on the exchange on the weak side, so that your ball handler who's quick is looking at somebody in the MIG or in the hole all the time. There's not a push-pull happening on the exchange type deal. I would do that all the time and just communicate that. Just like you said, on this exchange cut, there's nobody there anymore, and we're just giving up wide open layup. And I twitch as a coach. Like, when I'm watching this film, it's like, oh my God, this is hurting me. So how would you clean this up? Would you guys just say, hey, leave somebody there and don't get beat? Because I'm wondering all the way back here what Buffalo is trying to do at this point of the screen. Because, like Matt said, I don't know if he thought maybe they were icing, because he definitely jumps up and gets rejected. And I think he should be forcing him into it, given the orientation of the screen defender who is waiting to high hedge, I think.
I think, like, obviously you never know what the communication from the guys was. For sure, one of the 2 messed it up. Whether they were, I haven't seen them ice at any other point in the game, so I'm sure the guard is the one that either didn't hear screen or didn't get his feet flipped the right way. I think for me, if you run it back on the interchange, if they're going to interchange like Buffalo does and they're not going to keep the guy in the hole, the top guard has to step to the ball, and he needs to get the bottom guy through the gap so he's closer to the ball in a position to help, especially off what Makai's not a great 3-point shooter, 30 mid to low 30s. So, like, step to the ball, get your guy through, and then you're in a better position to help, instead of, he's chasing this guy all the way to the corner for no reason, where he should be stepping to the ball anyway. Just like, if it's a down screen, he's going to get him through the gap. He's not going to go through 2.
Yeah, and as that top guy too, I think he also has to orient himself so he can see the ball, because he doesn't see this drive until here, roughly. And there's no way you're getting from there to the bottom help to being in the hole in that amount of time with that guard coming downhill. Yeah. They are lucky that he shanks the layup.
If he jumps to the ball to get 4 through that gap, like, he probably is right there to have a chance to step up and take charge.
Yeah. Next one. Also a bit of a longer clip, but there's just a straight blow by in here. Lose the ball, we get to the second side, and then, I mean, you're deep in shot clock. You think you've done a good job. It does actually look like they bring their help from the low spot on this one. I'm going to run that one back, and for anybody who's listening, I'll just give you a bit of a description. I mean, it's a really long clip, but basically there's an open side screen and roll, and then we flip the side of the floor. They try and go open side again, and number 4 falls down, which is I always forget this guy's name. Coleman Lands falls down, gets nothing out of it, so he skips the ball. So we're now on the second side of the floor. We're under 10 on the shot clock. The ball's in Day Grant's hands, and you think you've done a pretty decent job overall as Buffalo playing, and then we just start reach, and get blown by. Day takes him to the rack and finishes. So is this to you guys just something, a mere matter of guard your man, like guard your yard, as people would say, or is there anything in here that you say, hey, like, good job for the rest of the clip, but hey, the help is late again? You know, what's the instruction from you guys? I'm losing my mind on this. I hate the reaching. Like, if you look, who is that? That's number 10. So that is, it's Ronaldo Segu. If you look at his body, he's pivoted completely forward at the waist. Like, there's no way he can guard this. Anybody, anything?
I think, like, if you're gonna play help defense, you can't get driven from the slots. Like, you have to sit down and guard the ball. Like, you can get driven from the wing, but you can't get driven from the top in the slot, because you're just never in a good spot to be able to help. Because unless the ball is on the true wing or in the corner, you're never going to have a guy in the deep hole. So, like, you really got to sit down and be able to guard the ball in the slot and square it up a little bit more. I think, what's his name, opens his hip here a little bit and lets himself get driven. But, like, if he stays with his butt to the basket here, see, he drops his foot here and gets blown by, like, you got to cut that off and not get driven from the slot, because there's just never a good spot to help from.
What about the reaching? Like,
Yeah,
like what's happening there, right there? What are you doing?
Especially late shot clock, like, keep him in front, make him take a tough step back, mid-range or 3 at the end of the shot clock.
We got one more here. One soon. So I'll run this back when this one is finished, just so, like, people listening can get an idea. So we get to a second side of the floor. We're still fairly early in the shot clock. We're we're twisting the ball screen so that he's attacking the sideline, and as Day Grant is going left, he gets downhill, so to speak, on his guy, and they're in drop and over coverage. But in my opinion, the big leaves too early. So the screen defender who's in the drop goes back before Segu gets square on Day. And I'm just wondering if anybody else shares my opinion, or if this is just a better offensive player. So we're over and drop, like I said, he attacks, and 34 is out of there really, really early. And so that's Josh and Bala, and Day just takes him right to the rack. What is you guys' teaching point in dropping over? When can number 34 get out of there?
I think right there, you pause the perfect time. He's talking to him. That's just a great offensive move.
So you don't think
In my opinion,
34 is out of there too early?
I think he's out of position, but I thought the guard did a good job of guarding him. I mean, as good as he can. Like, if 34 is going to help, he's going to have to come all the way up to the block. Like, I think that's just good offense, my opinion.
Fair.
I think his angle of retreat is awful. Like, why are you trying to beat him right there? Like, who cares? Let him shoot that. If you're trying to beat him, he's trying to get to the rim.
So you mean the ball?
On-ball defender, like, bring it back like half a second. Like, why try to get even there? You're not winning that battle. It's a foul if he shoots it.
Right.
So beat him to – he's trying to get to the block. Like, you need a better angle. Like, forget the 5-man's even involved in this. If anything, it's bad that he's there. He's either out or he should be containing the ball, one of the two. He's just bad right now. But the guy on the ball, like, why are you trying to run into him? Like, beat him to a spot.
Interesting. So, like, you're saying that his angle is more east-west than north-south.
He never gets in front of the ball. And that's why, like, everyone works on this layup.
Yeah, the step through to the, for sure. Yeah.
Like that's a layup drill. Like
Yeah.
he never gets ahead of the ball. Like shit, that's going against me at the end of the day.
Bang, step through. So if you were doing this in film, you would be pausing right about here and just being like, hey man, your entire angle is off. And
Yeah, I mean the 5 can save the day for sure. Like I think it's bad all around, but the on ball, like get back in front of the ball, make them make. You know the floor shrunk anyways. That guy's not even ball side corner. Like cut him off.
And when you cut him off, are you cutting him off so that in this case, your left foot is still a bit high and you're keeping him towards the offensive left side of the floor? Or are you cutting him off and you're entirely square and just playing him straight, hopefully at that point?
Yeah, I think you're just trying to beat him to a spot. So if you can encourage him to take that mid-range shot anyways, that's great.
Yeah.
I think he's saying, man, like he shouldn't be in a slide. He should be in a sprint.
Yeah,
So like forget the footwork, like get out of your slide, get to a spot. I mean,
Right.
I can see both.
Interesting.
I mean the 5 can save the day, but he doesn't.
Yeah,
So-
5 is awful. It's not. Yeah, 5 is not doing anything.
In an ideal world, would you leave that, like, that 5, if he's going to play it, should he be there longer? Because that's sort of what I pick up on in this clip. I
Well-
look at that and I think that 5 should be slowing that so that Segu can square him off. But if he's not going to do that, then like he's just kind of an obstacle in the way, in my opinion.
I mean, I think he's too high because he's too slow. Like he's too slow to be that high initially.
Right.
And so, like, I don't know. Like, I know you guys talk about hard hedging beforehand, but if this dude is hard hedging, that's awful. He can't move his feet well enough, anyways. Like, he can't slide one time to stop this. Like, what's he doing?
Fair.
Yeah, I think like for me, just with Miami spacing here, he's got to slide over and stop the ball because it's an easy tag for 4 to get to Coleman at the top of the key, and then they're so close here. The backside corner, 1 can easily guard 2 until they can recover a little bit.
Yeah. The thing is for me is that I think that if, like Jimmy says, he's too high anyways. I'm moving 34 at least to the free throw line, maybe even a little bit lower. But if that guy shows his chest and gets big, that slows that guard down. I mean, that's like 6'10" showing to, I don't know, is this Hines or is this, no, it's, yeah, like 6'2" to 6'10". He's not taking him on, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to go through that. But once he sees him retreat, he goes to the cup. Next one. And sorry, guys, I got a lot of clips just to fill the time here because there were a lot of things defensively in this one that I was just like, hey, what are we doing? So a bit of a longer clip as well, but again, just a rip and go on the offensive. Like, so there's an offensive rebound. It gets tipped out. It comes out to Nike on the wide slot, true wing, so to speak. And when we're into this, it's just rip and blow by. Like there's not even any sort of touch. Just number 4 can't stay in front of him. Devonta Jordan getting blown by, gives up the angle, baseline layup type deal. As a coach, do you even really spend time talking about it, or is it just another straight like, hey man, you got to guard what's in front of you, like be better?
You run it back one time, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I talk about it for sure, just because dude's standing in the hole and stares at the dude driving for a layup and doesn't. I mean, bottom guy, obviously he gets beat quick, but like the kid with the dreads doesn't even react. Like he just watches him shoot a layup, doesn't even try.
So like overall, when you're watching this, because this like, there was a recurring theme here when I was watching these clips was, do you think that they're trying to not help from the hole, or are they just repeatedly late because their perimeter defenders are just getting crushed on simple things like rip, blow by, or you know, like
If they're not trying to help, why even be in there? Like, why wouldn't he stand right out by the shooter and not even – he's not doing anything here. He's not taking away the open 3, and he's not taking away the drive.
just might as well
So,
not be on the floor.
To me, I think he just doesn't help. Like, I think he just misses his assignment because the blow-by happened so fast. But because, like, to me, if they're not going to help, like he wouldn't even be in the paint. He'd be 3 or 4 steps outside so that he's there, no question, on the catch if the pass gets thrown out.
On this tip out, right? So there's a bit of a closeout. Are you trying to force middle, or are you just playing square?
We force baseline here. But
So in your instance, your help, your most important guy, you're losing your mind on him because ultimately you're getting the drive that you want out of it, and you want to chest the guy out as he's going. But that mid guy, he needs to be there.
meet him outside the lane, yeah. Obviously the ball screen's coming, so maybe he's in the middle of trying to flip his feet or whatever. So maybe it happens, but like, yeah, we're 10 toes to the sideline on his high hip when the ball's on the wing. So
Next one for you guys. We got a Buffalo miss and Miami of Ohio transitioning. And I'll let it run through and then go through it one more time. So we'll take it as they just cross into the half court. We'll start with the ball, sort of offensive left slot here. Couple cuts happening. You got your trigger man up top with the ball. He passes back to the slot, and then there's a pin down. And on that pin down, who do we have with the ball? Is it number 4 again? No, it's 15. So we got Milos Jovic just ripping and going on that drive. When he gets through, there is a ball side dig, but they cut one of the weak side players from the corner, and they get that pass, kicks it back out, wide open 3, long contest. What do you guys think from the point of the wide slot? Is this, again, just guard your yard, stay in front of this guy at this point? Because in my opinion, everything breaks down from this point right here, excuse me. So, I mean, we're 18 on the shot clock. There's a dig. He gets through. But our help, our low guy, our most important guy, is late again, in my opinion. I would be taking this charge no matter what, personally, even on the pass. But we kick it to the cutter, and he makes a great pass right away, just knows where the help is coming from. Am I correct? Is it all broken? Excuse me, gentlemen. Is it all broken down from this point where Milos has it on the wide slot, true corner, so to speak?
I think the MIG comes too early.
Do you?
I'm the opposite. Like, if you're going to force this, like, I have no idea what the guy's skill level is with the ball, right?
Right.
But say that's his weak hand, where he's taking off from, the guy, it's going to be a moderately, what's he going to make that, 45% of the time? Maybe. Like, it's not ideal what you want. But the MIG's not doing it. Like, he came early and does nothing. Like, there's no need for him to be there. Like, if he's not there, I mean, that guy's probably not going to shoot it anyways. And, the guy doesn't sink on the backside and it all breaks down for sure. Like, they make a good play offensively, but he doesn't need to be there.
So if he's coming, I want him taking this charge, because just like you said you don't really know Jovic's skill level or whatever. This layup to me looks out of control, just as you're saying.
That's my thing. Like, you want him to be on the other side of the restricted.
Well, in an ideal world, yes, because I think this is out of control, and I think that he gets that charge. Now, I can understand the argument as to why not, because then you're just in heavy rotation on the other side of the floor. But I think everything is scenario-based, and if I'm running this like back in film with my guys, I think you got to go get this charge as a guard on a bigger forward who's out of control.
I mean, I think that's a layup if he goes any earlier.
And I think it's a tough layup.
From the corner, you mean? A layup for number 11 if he's any earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's any sort of a player driving. I mean, if you're saying that's a forward that can still make that pass, I mean, a guard, that's, easier.
Anybody have anything different?
Yeah, I think like just like a couple clips ago, I didn't say anything, but it was on this near side. If you go to the dig, wherever the dig happens, like he's standing straight up, his legs are locked, like right there. Look at him. Yeah. So watch when he digs. If he starts there, nothing happens. Like if he's already there in a gap and he's ready to go, then nothing I don't think he drives that ball. I think he passes it and they go into another action, live to fight another day.
So you'd want Williams like higher and harder with the dig?
Right there. No, just right there. Just start. That's his position. His positioning, if you back it up just a little bit.
So like if
This
we
is
keep
not
it right here, but he's already doing that right here, you're saying that drive doesn't even happen basically.
Right. Because he's showing it. It's kind of like the Giannis thing. Show him a wall. Let him make him see a wall so he doesn't even try to drive. So even if 11 sits there and maybe he does play with inside hand, inside foot to, try to get the ball to get picked up or get a hand on it, but he's getting out, you're still fine. But the drive probably doesn't happen if he's just standing there and he's ready to go.
So in this scenario, I believe it's Delonte Brown who's in the ball side corner. What if that is a shooter, ball side corner? Like, I don't love their spacing. I think he's actually a little bit too high on that powerhouse logo. But would you do or not do the same thing that you're suggesting if they have a shooter ball side corner, or does that completely influence your decision?
No, your weight, like if you go to where he's digging, because he has a great dig, like his like right there. If your hand, if your weight is just on your left foot in the gap, then you're pushing out. You're pushing out. So you're really just showing help. You're not committing to the ball. I don't think the drive happens. Back to what I was saying, but like if you're inside hand, if your weight is on your inside foot there, which is his left foot, and you're pushing out to get, you can get to a shooter.
So you'd be happy with the contest that he could pose if that's a shooter, given what you're saying. You think it'd be enough?
Let me put it this way. He's going to get there a lot faster if he starts here than when he has to step and dig and then get back to the corner.
Fair.
So same concept.
Fair. Anybody have anything different on that one or no? We'll go one or two more here just in time. And like I said, I'll run it back at the end and try and describe it for anybody listening. But I like this one because there's a lot of action going on here. Unfortunately, we're just straight to the cup again for Buffalo. So Miami of Ohio, we're past screen away. And then we bring it into, so would you guys call this a wide pin down into a 77 type action, or would you call this a triple? Like, not really that it makes a huge difference. I'm just wondering how you would classify this.
They're just playing to me.
They're just playing. So he comes off, he's going through three basically. It's interesting to me, Buffalo tries to hedge on the last one. So we've got Nike with the ball, we've got a high hedge, and we're able to recover to it, right? So number 2 on Buffalo, Antoine Johnson is able to get back to him. And then at this point, we're square. Like, I'm okay as a coach with where we're at if I'm Buffalo, with the exception of 22 being topside on 5. So, like, for me, if I'm 5, I could just slip out of there and I've got a layup or a dunk. But they don't even have to get to that because there's no force to the center towards the screen, force to use it, whatever you want to call it. And it's just a straight crossover right to the cup, finish. It goes in film for me. What are you guys saying to your guys from this point right here?
Make him use the ball screen.
Yeah. Consistent theme in this game is what you're saying, right? Like,
yeah, that's on the on-ball defender and only on him, because no one else has an opportunity to be even close to anywhere to help if you get driven from this spot on the floor.
Just too far when you're slot towards the point. You just gotta make that go, and that's it. Period.
I mean, maybe number who has that 4 over there could be in the gap, like Matt talked a little bit, ready to dig quick on the bounce, but they're so spread out that if he's too far, it's an easy kick to the corner for a 3. Like, you just gotta make him use the screen. Like,
yeah, I'm with you. I think you gave him a bailout with talking about the gap guy, because I mean that's a double gap. That's a little bit harder to control. Just force him into the screen. Next clip.
Next clip. Just get up into his body, fix it, move on. So again, like I said, we're next clip. I'll run this back at the end and talk about it. We'll finish, I guess, on this one. But are we living with this? So let me run this back and just kind of go through it. We're over the half court. We're early in the shot clock, and we're playing with the screen a little bit. So they go under on Coleman lands, and then they try to rescreen it, same direction. He waves them off, and we spread the floor a bit. He wants to play with them. We're getting deeper into shot clock. We don't get any action, so he decides he's going to attack left to the block. He shoots a little fade over the top and hits it. Are we just living with this as coaches? Like, is this just, hey man, that's a good shot, give him a high five and move on, or is there anything in there you guys see?
I think that's what Jimmy and Matt were talking about. I thought 3 did a good job there, turning and sprinting and beating them to the block and making them take a tougher shot than a layup. Like, I don't know if, like, for me, like, this is a tough shot.
Yeah, and it's over a bigger guy than him too. Like, this is a hard shot. Good for him, man. Just pat him on the back and move it on.
Good contest. He didn't give up the layup. Like, I like it better than the clip you showed earlier where, like, I know it was a ball screen situation and he took a bad angle and tried to cut off the pull-up. But, like, here he just turned and tried to beat him to the block. I thought it was pretty good, D.
Awesome. Let me do one more. Just looks like time-wise we got the time for it. In case you guys haven't noticed, my theme in watching this was just if I was going to make corrections, they would all really be on the defensive side. And I'd like your opinion, as you guys have given, as to what we should live with and what we shouldn't. But I mean, ultimately, as I said when we started all of this, if I look at the box of this game and after watching the film of this game, really it came down to, hey, you know, you guys put the ball in the bucket a couple times more. The boxes were pretty even between these two teams. And unfortunately for Buffalo, they had beat them twice in the season, and the time that it happened was during the playoff game. But we'll run through this last one. You know what's interesting about this is I had another one that was a Gortat screen as well that I wanted to cover, but it looks like it's quite a bit farther down. But in terms of guarding this overall, let me run it back, and I like how I keep using that as the name of the show. Self-promotion, gotta love it. You know, it's long. We're just moving around. We get to a point where we're just sort of playing, and when we get to the point where we're just sort of playing. No, this is the jump shot, isn't it? Did I go back a clip? I did. I apologize, gentlemen. So we get to a point where we're just sort of playing. Ball's at the point, and he just crosses him, takes him to the rim. The Gortat screen underneath, how do you guys teach your guys to play against that? Or is it just, hey, you're in trouble type deal, you got to deal with it? So I'm talking about right in there for anybody who doesn't, like, I've heard it called a highway screen before or whatever, but basically when you got that screen, you get nothing out of it. You rescreen the drop so that your ball handler can get all the way through. It does actually look like in that double gap, they are trying to dig. Is this just another instance of don't let him get back to his strong hand here?
Yeah, that I'd like to see one come and get vertical and at least put a little pressure on the.
Where's the one here? Right over here, you mean?
So he has an opportunity to help, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And come, just not try to take a charge, but go vertical and at least make that lap.
Give it a contest or whatever.
Yeah.
And what about the Gortat screen for you, the highway traffic screen here where they're screening the drop guy? How do you guys teach your guys to guard that? Because this is starting to happen more and more. And I don't think I really have a game plan for that at this point yet.
I mean, I'd tell my dudes to blow it up. And I'd either take the foul or make the ref call an offensive foul because I think it's an offensive foul every time technically. But that's
interesting. So run them down and put the ref in a position to make the call.
I mean, depends on the situation in the game, but like no matter how you look at it, if this is actually a screen, even though he's disguising as a post up, the way this dude does it is 100% an illegal screen. He lowers his shoulder, he's backing up into him. Like, I'm telling my dude to put the ref in a tough spot. But if I'm 42 in a perfect world, I'd probably go under that dude because 5 is not a good shooter. But
It's really tough because in this scenario, your eyes are on the ball, right? This is what makes this screen so effective. And it's like, if he goes under, then you don't need to help from 1 because he should, in essence, be able to get back. But, I mean, I don't really have a plan for this. I don't know how to teach against it. I think if I'm watching this film, when he re-squares here, I don't think he should be re-squaring. I think he should be keeping him going to his left hand. And on that rip, we're in trouble all the way through on that rip.
yeah, it's like the horns rub screen from a point guard, right? Like it's technically an illegal screen, so we get super physical with it and take our chances, whatever way that. I mean,
have you ever got that call? Because like I said, when we started with the horns action in the beginning in Canada, that horns rub screen is a really consistent one that coaches run. It's one of the few horn sets that they really want to get to, and it's like when you tell your guys to blow it up and run through it, do you get it?
Most refs will let it go. Bad refs will call it a foul one way or the other. I think like a lot of, and I don't know if I want to say this on video or not, but I will because I don't have a job anyway. But a lot of refs are bad, so they're going to call it a foul one way or the other. So.
Right. I don't know if you guys can see my chat when I put it on the main screen or if it just remains invisible or whatever, but Greg put something in here. He's saying if the defensive big on the screen shows harder and recovers quicker, that screen becomes harder to set. The defensive big is late, high in stance, and slow to recover type of deal. Right? So I like the idea. I like what Greg is saying, but I like the idea of running through it. Jimmy, Matt, at your level, have you guys got a plan for this one? Because this is one that I don't really even know how to teach specific to the drop guy getting over that Gortat type deal or getting under it. Like, what are you guys teaching?
I was gonna let Jimmy. He's the expert. But I think he's just too high. Like he's got so much room to get under. Like I think as soon as 4 squares him off, and we could talk about like if you want to keep him on that show, if you want, like you said, mental, like keep him on the side. Like we don't know what they're teaching here. Right. But as soon as he squares him back up, like 42 needs to get under. Like I don't think that you should have let the big get behind him to begin with.
Same idea personally, like a guy roll in behind type deal, right? Like just
right. Like the reason, I mean, if they're in a drop, he needs to just be giving ground, unless it's like more of like a flat hedge and you're trying to put out a fire up, up high. But if they're if they're gonna drop, like he needs to get under that. But he still has space, but he never takes his eyes off the ball, so he doesn't know that like where his man is. But he has room to basically like shoot that gap, if you will, just meet him at the block. So basically, force a jump shot, or he's gonna have to finish through a vertical contest.
Interesting.
I agree. I mean, like if you're playing this 2-on-2, number 41 or whatever number he is, he's got to get below it. Like just like Matt said, if you're playing it with 3 guys, the dude on the block needs to be over there and saving the day, and then they can crack down on the weak side anyway. So it depends how you're playing it. But if you're playing a 2-on-2, he's way too high. If you're playing with 3 guys, the guy doesn't come over. So either way you look at it, they don't do anything.
So for both of you guys, basically the initial orientation is what allows the railroad to happen. And if he's lower, they can't get to it basically. So fix it with the initial orientation at this point.
I think so. I mean, the point of a drop is like the roll can never get behind you, in my opinion. Like that's right. Where it kind of begins. So, and I get it. Like that's a dynamic player. That's fine. But it means you need to involve a third player. And if he doesn't come, then the onus is on one of them, depending on what you're,
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. I love it. Thank you for helping me out today. Obviously, my guest had conflicting things to take care of. Next week, please join me. I got Coach Larry Blunt joining us from Drake. We're going to cover Drake versus Bradley from Drake's perspective. I'll put the game and the box score up on Rising Coaches. I'm going to do my quick sell here. Obviously, if you are watching this at a later time, the entire Run It Back library is now both on Spotify and the podcast app. So you can always bring my lovely voice with you wherever you're going, make it nice and convenient for you. Obviously, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and take a look at what's going on there. But lastly, huge thank you to Rising Coaches for providing the community that joins me and shoots the breeze with me, so to speak. I love these hot stove type things, and I hope it continues to grow because I'm learning a lot, and hopefully a lot of you guys who pay attention see value in it. That being said, if you're not on Rising Coaches currently and you're checking a replay, or you're one of my Canadian friends that jumps in and out, please do get on Rising Coaches because there's tremendous value in it. There's a lot of people that can help you out and get better at coaching. And that being said, special thanks to those of you guys who jumped in here right now. And Matt, I look forward to what you're doing at 12 today. I want to see what's going on there. So for that's today, right? We're today. I didn't get that wrong.
Yeah, it's like in an hour. We're just gonna talk about the matchups and stuff. I thought it would be interesting rather than hearing about football.
Nice.
Tired to hear about how Tom Brady is doing in training camp.
I hear you. Awesome. Really appreciate you guys. Look forward to running it back with you next week when we take on who we got, Drake versus Bradley from Drake's perspective. Thank you. Appreciate stopping the recording here.